Airbnb's original pitch deck from 2009 has become one of the most sought-after references for new entrepreneurs. It was one of the first pitch decks from unicorn companies to be released publicly, and it got a lot of media attention. But beyond that, and most importantly, it's a great pitch deck. It's short and to the point. It hits all the high notes, and most importantly, it perfectly paints the picture of the business. We're going to tear this pitch deck down slide by slide. The look of the slides is, or was, very 2000s. So we took the liberty of redesigning it using Slidebean's AI design system. So the first 100 people to sign up with the link below will have access to the redesigned slides for free, as well as a 25% discount on any Slidebean plan. All right, so let's get on with it. This is Pitch Deck Examples, Airbnb. Let's start with the slide structure. We have a cover, a problem slide, a solution slide, a market validation, a market size, product, business model, market adoption, competition, competitive advantages, team, press, user testimonials, and finally, financials. All right, so the problem slide. This is one of my favorite problem slides ever. 3 clear, direct, and undisputable statements. Writing a problem slide is a common challenge. Founders who are very familiar with the status quo tend to overcrowd this slide. Excess industry details. Remember, the investor seeing your deck might not be familiar with the inner workings of a specific market niche. Travel is by no means a niche, so the purpose here was simply to establish the reality of travel with 3 key points that Airbnb was looking to tackle and solve. This is also the first slide, so you don't want to start your pitch deck with a statement that might make the investors question your actual industry expertise. Remember, think of undebatable statements. Now, the problems stated on this slide need to be tackled on the next slide, the solution. I usually like to show the product on this solution slide, but these guys opted to move the product showcase later on the deck. Instead, they focused on answering the problems with 3 statements. Once again, notice how simple the headline is. A web platform where users can rent their space to host travelers. So simple, no complicated tech jargon. Explaining what your product does in 10 words or less is by no means an easy task. Be prepared to iterate time and time again over this slogan, and you'll know when you find it. When your grandmother asks you what you do, and you can answer in a single sentence, and she can grasp it, you'll be there. That's elevator pitch nirvana. Now, moving on to market validation. Not every pitch deck needs a market validation slide. We made a chart a few months ago showing the required slides on a deck according to a bunch of different people. However, in the case of Airbnb, market validation is essential because they need to demonstrate how people are looking to move away from the hotel model. Craigslist is a classified site, not optimized for travelers or experiences, and with that user experience, it's honestly not optimized for anything. However, it still shows how many people are looking to rent out their spaces. Similarly, over 500,000 couch surfers demonstrate once again the problem statement. People are looking for cheaper travel options and are willing to sleep on a shared space. Airbnb was certainly offering a new concept, but couchsurfing provided the validation it needed, which is the reason this slide was critical. Market size. So this is not my favorite slide from their deck. What the founders here were trying to demonstrate is how many trips they could potentially reach if they owned 20% of the budget/online travel market. 20% of the total addressable market is a very bold statement. However, with 2 million plus guests sleeping on an Airbnb location every single night, we can safely say that they beat that metric. When I write pitch decks, I tend to avoid lines like, if we could only get 1% of this market. I would much rather show a more in-depth study of the market opportunity, focusing on the industry data of similar companies. The product. Not a lot to add here. Showcase your product. If you don't have product screenshots to show, you are probably not ready to be pitching investors. Check out our video on seed funding for more details on these traction requirements to raise capital. The business model. Once again, these slides assume a bold and ambitious piece of the travel market. I think that the most significant value on this slide is, once again, simplicity. We take a 10% commission on each transaction. That's simple and straightforward, and it provides a number that can be used to estimate business dimensions. Notice how they are using an average fee per night as well as actual data on their average room price. These are not made up numbers. Airbnb had an operational MVP when this pitch deck was created. Now, the adoption strategy, also called a go-to-market slide, which should lay out a plan to grow the company and the user base. Go-to-market slides are most undoubtedly speculative. As a marketer, I understand how a plan can fail and how quickly the marketing/sales plan of a company can shift to breakthroughs. The idea on this slide is to show that there is a plan, that the team can come up with solid ideas to grow the company, and that they will be able to execute them without having to recruit a larger team or an external agency. The dual posting feature on Craigslist was one of Airbnb's most iconic marketing hacks. They developed a bot or a system that would automatically relist any Airbnb listing on Craigslist, thus exposing the property to a much larger audience, driving traffic to their new and unknown site. The listing would also increase the chance of the host securing a guest because the organic traffic to their site was still very small. Amazing, genius stuff. The competition. I like Business School 101 charts, especially if they can show how your product is differentiated. By setting themselves apart on affordability and online transactions, they would be able to carve out a piece of the market for their own. Competitive advantages. I believe the highlights here are number 1, first to market, number 2, host incentive. Airbnb was the first site of its kind, one of those game-changing ideas that were, of course, combined with fantastic execution. The host incentive, as well as real ease of use, were also incredibly valuable. The motivation for extra revenue from unused home space is hard to beat, and non-tech people could easily list their homes and filter guests. Airbnb's system and insurance also protected both the guest and the host from scams, which are common on Craigslist. The team slide. Not a lot to add on the team slide. Make sure you only talk about core team members, people who will be 100% dedicated to the company. Advisors are useless here unless they are incredibly relevant in the space. Also, the team shown on the slides needs to have the capacity to bring the business to its next fundable point. With the $500,000 Airbnb was planning on raising, they probably wouldn't be able to afford any industry leaders or extremely skilled employees. These guys were going to be the upper level management for the next months to come. Go watch our video on finding co-founders. Now, press and user testimonials are helpful. I usually like to merge these two into a single slide, perhaps even combining it with a traction slide, meaning a revenue slide with a nice hockey stick revenue growing chart. Finally, we have a financial slide. Simple and to the point, and most importantly, with a clear goal, reaching 80,000 transactions. The only detail that I would add here is the use of funds, a rough estimate of where the round is going. In this case, considering the product or MVP was already developed, we could assume that the round would go to growth, validating the business. But we'd need to ask Brian to answer that question. All right. I hope you found that useful. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be tearing down pitch decks from other fantastic companies, including Uber and Buffer and Intercom. We're also going to make videos specific to solving some of the hardest slides, such as the market size and the problem solution combination. Let us know in the comments if there are any other slides you are struggling with and other company pitch decks you would like us to tear down.